Chapter 30. Please leave a message after the tone. I hung up the phone. I couldn't breathe. 7 years. I breathed. It wasn't him. 7 years. I rubbed the stress from my eyes. For 7 years my heart had been cold. I thought of Hosea and pined. I ached to see him again. For 7 years a hand twisted its cold dead fingers around my heart and squeezed the love out of me. For every year that slipped by, it tightened its hold on me. I had grown used to it. For 7 years it had been there suffocating me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't feel. Until that day. I felt my heart writhe in its grip, unable to beat under the strain, and at last I snapped. Something inside me surrendered, and I couldn't keep it in any longer. The phone slipped from my hands. My chest burned, and I wanted to cut my heart out of me, to curl up and die. I fell to my knees and willed myself dead while I welcomed the pang and begged it to kill me. I curled up on the floor, tucking my knees to my chest, and I screamed. I cried. The pain was agonizing. It crippled me, and I lay there and endured it while the hand twisted out of my heart. I screamed and clawed at my face. I pulled my hair. For the first time since he left, I screamed his name, wishing him back, wanting him back, regretting so much that I hadn't done. I was as miserable as I had ever been, more miserable than with Joe, who I had escaped after a few months chained to his bed in his room, or imprisoned as a sex slave in mine. More miserable than I had been in my father's house, where I could escape through my worlds. More miserable than with Scott, who I could forget in between phone calls and visits to New York. With Richard there was no escape, no end, no friends, no worlds, no moments of happiness or laughter that broke my miserable existence. I was in a traditional marriage with 2 children. I had a stable home. I was fed and provided for. There was no war, no struggle, no rapists, and I hated every moment of that cookie-cutter marriage, and not one bit of me knew why. I was alone, and that day I chose to wallow in my misery and lie with her. Alone is what I was, and alone is how I would die. Alone was a bitch of a bedfellow, cold and merciless. No one was there. I was still locked in the still room. The deathmen encircled me, and there was no door. I held myself. I rocked and screamed as I killed the last part of me. And just like that, the deathmen were gone. On my hands and knees I wept in my room, naked in the light with no door, and no place to go, and no one in my room but me. "Why didn't you kill yourself?" William asked. "I wanted to," I said. "I considered—" Oh, that's a lie. I dwelt on it, spent most of my life trying to find a way that I could kill myself and succeed. I was terrified I would fail and leave myself handicapped instead. In the end, I was too much of a coward. I had too much of a fear of failure. Oh, my fear of failure. Now that was something I had developed and honed into fine precision, a fear of failure. Nothing gained rejection faster than failure. I was terrified of failing. To this day, it is my greatest fear, greater than my fear of spiders, of men, of relationships. I looked at William in that moment. I had convinced myself that I could still earn my father's love and respect, if I succeeded. I said, ignoring William's comment. I still feel that way today. Maybe if I did better, if I were smarter, stronger, kinder, wealthier. Every decision I made was based on seeking my father's approval. And I was convinced success would earn that. I still do. I'm still holding out for it. I cannot fail, not with loving men, nor with improving me, not with living life. I would force my father to love me, to accept me, to approve. I cannot risk the failure. I will persevere. I will endure it. I will succeed. I am determined, and I will do it with a dawn. William arched a brow. A dawn. I smiled. Distinction. I said, I watch too many anime. William stared, studying my face, and I wondered what he thought of me right then. I worried if William approved of me. Why didn't I kill myself? I muttered. I considered the chances of my children finding me, or the poor officers who had to collect and clean up the remains. I weighed it against my despair, and believe you me, I had spent many a day wallowing in despair. Do you know what despair is? Really is? It is an emotional state entirely devoid of hope. It isn't loneliness or self-pity. It is a place beyond hopelessness, a place where you are completely convinced things will never get better, and that despair is all you have left. I feel no greater sorrow for anyone as I do for those who commit suicide. I know where they are mentally. I know the state of despair, for I too have been there many times. It isn't cowardice or selfishness. It is despair. There are those who fight it back their whole lives until one day you don't see the light. But you haven't killed yourself, William said. You found a way out. I did. Every time. Every time I raised the blade to my own chest or my wrists, a flicker of hope came back to me like a lifeline. I used it to pull myself out and went on. The lifeline, William said. The hope. What was it? What did you think that stopped you? I thought for a moment of all the times I took up a blade or rolled a handful of pills around in the bottle. I thought of the finite, I said. The finite. The end, I answered. Suicide would mean I would have to give up the only existence, this existence, I would never have. I believe in no afterlife or a second chance. This is what we have, here and now. This is all we've got. This is it. This is our only chance to get it right. Live it up or live with regrets. When you die, only what you've done will remain. And if it's good enough, it will outlive you. In a way, my disbelief in the afterlife saved my life. The next day I sat down at the computer and browsed online, putzed a lot, came upon this contest that piqued my interest. It was a poetry contest. It was free, so on a whim I pulled out my old poems and submitted one. I had written as a child. I forgot about the contest almost immediately. I browsed some more, cleaned the house, fed the children, went to bed. The next morning I received an email telling me I had been selected. I was floored. Stunned, really. My English teacher made it clear I couldn't write, and I hadn't bothered trying since high school. I decided to see what I could do after 10 years. And so I put pen to paper and wrote Diamond Gold. My perfect love, who wasn't? Inside me he beset, his lustrous stone of diamond gold, which does not suffer arrest. That summer that we claimed, that summer I won't name, he fervently placed diamond gold within my hollowed breast. He came one night with words of love, he seated there his stone, the lustrous stone of diamond gold, bound with ardent blood. Each night I laid me down, his diamond gold would grow, until it grew to golden stone, the weight it held me down. Through time I bore that stone, through paint that stone did groan, and with it wanton burning lust, from a summer not forgot. Now I know of diamond gold, its burden's hard to bear, it sits as heat inside my breast, disabling my breath. For my love, my perfect love, forever I will bear the pang and weight of that stone, of his diamond gold. I was amazed at my words. They were great. Okay, they weren't great. They were better than I had expected, much better than I thought. I was stunned at how easily they came to me. From that moment on, words engulfed me, and everything I was became them. Emotions expose you. They make you weak. When someone can see your weakness, you are vulnerable and they can hurt you. Sean had seen my love for Tribble and used her against me to control me. Pissant had used my love for him and aggressively provoked my jealousy to satisfy his own ego. He would twist jealousy's vile blade into me and spun me about like a yo-yo, amusing himself with the games he could make me perform like a trained dog. My mother saw my tears and scolded me. She mocked me and ridiculed me as a joke before the family like a sideshow freak. Joe saw my pity and played my guilt against me, and Scott saw my desperation, my neglect, my need for approval, my fear of rejection. He fashioned up the strings and made me into his marionette. Through conditioning, he made me his doll. I would walk, talk, think, beg, and fuck exactly as he wanted, when he wanted, at will. That is why I hide my emotions. There hasn't been a single emotion that hasn't been used against me to control me. And when at last I escaped, I had emerged the master of my emotions. Every emotion. Love, hate, grief, anger, fear, guilt, doubt, insecurity, jealousy. I identified each one, separated them, and boxed them. And then I buried those emotions within my darkness, and I threw a blanket of cold stone logic on top of it. On a dime at any given moment, I can access each and every one of my emotions, and I determined exactly how much of each I let out when. That is when Angel started screaming. When I sat down to write, I tapped my boxes of emotions. I awakened only memories, old pain. I revived my heart and withdrew a cup of hate, a teaspoon of grief, a pound of rage. Through my writing, I began to siphon the pain out of me. It eased the pressure. Angel kept screaming. I wrote, pouring words onto pages. Every word eased my heartache. After a week, I could think. After a month, I could breathe. After 6 weeks, I knew little else about the written word. I pored over websites, learned everything I could on writing. I wrote poems. I let my emotions find me, but only a little. I returned to dance, and for the first time in 7 years, I danced with the music instead of against it. That year, I decided I wanted nothing else but to be a writer. It consumed me, revived me, it saved me. My lessons and books returned. Everything flooded back to me, except the music. In 2006, I announced to Richard that I was pregnant with our third child, Lynn.